a seat at the table with some men with confidence.
Question on the floor. Is a competitive streak or nature required to be successful? Do you need to be competitive to be successful? Who wants to go?
Okay, so because this is something that I've been thinking about a little bit, my mindset leans towards yes, largely because I feel like competitive people have a certain drive. They see a goal, and in order to accomplish that goal, that need to win fuels them to accomplish that goal or to accomplish the mission and be successful. And I'm not saying that it's impossible to be successful without it, but having that kind of energy makes it, I think, a little bit easier. It provides a little bit more fuel in the tank when you feel like you ain't got nothing left. It gives a little bit more push. Whereas without, it's kind of like, oh, well, I might be willing to put this off a little bit, or I can coast a little bit. You know, it's right there. I'm almost there. I don't have to do it today, kind of thing. Personal opinion.
I absolutely think it's necessary. Fact of the matter is, for instance, if you are working in a work environment, doesn't matter whether it's corporate or what level, you have people looking at you. Your boss is looking at you. And I'm saying that because I was a boss once and I was looking at people. I was constantly looking at who could I promote. If I had to move on, who could fill my shoes and do so effectively? So I would constantly not only train people, but try to bring people in and show them what I did just in case I had to move on. And if your head isn't in it, then you will get left behind. Now, granted, some people do have this mindset that I'm only here for a limited time. I'm in school, I'm working to get my degree, I'm going to start myself a bakery business. Whatever your jam is. Those people usually just like to just sit there and be comfortable and get their couple of hours because they have something else that they're working on. But even then, they are still being competitive. They're keeping themselves competitive by furthering their education and making themselves more desirable for future employers. So in the end, you're still being competitive. So without that, I gotta go and get it, or somebody else will get it. And if someone is to have it, why shouldn't that be me attitude? You're just gonna get left behind. And the fact of the matter is, nobody's just gonna come and give it to you. Unless you're standing at the corner of the highway with the cup saying anything helps, God bless. You know, not knocking the homeless or the people who are destitute or in need, but I aspire for something greater than standing on the corner with a sign and a cup.
You know, I know there's somebody out there that's probably thinking to themselves, as we say this, because first off, I'm gonna say unanimously that yes, I do believe it too. I think that a competitive nature, having a competitive spirit, definitely gives you an edge to the push and to your drive to be successful. I know somebody's out there saying, "Oh, I didn't compete with anybody. I didn't have to be competitive. I feel like to get where I just had my own inner drive and everything like that." I would contest that you were competitive with yourself. You know, sometimes, as far as not even sometimes, whenever we are setting out to be successful or to try to accomplish a goal, our first and worst enemy, worst person the first person we got to deal with is ourselves. So the first person you're in competition with is to first of all beat yourself to get from where you are now to where you want to be. So even if you don't feel like you met somebody or you was in the spirit of competition at first with someone, I feel like that if nothing else, you were in a spirit of competition with yourself. Also, just like Ronald was saying, and some of these guys are saying, when you met certain circumstances, when you meet a wall, when you get into a situation, which you will, on your drive, on your journey to trying to be successful, you will meet a situation in which someone, if nothing else, but for a job, for a position that you want, that is going to be crucial to your next step in your career or your level of being successful, and you're having to go head up with somebody that thinks they're better than you for this position. That spirit of competitiveness kicks in. It's in the middle of your drive. You're already going, so it kicks in. You're gonna go. You're gonna get into that level. You're like, oh no, no. I want that, and I'm not letting anybody stop me. Oh, you want it too? Cool. Let's go after it together. And you find yourself, it just edges you out. The people that have that, I think, are the people that move forward and become and get to being successful, a lot faster and a lot more effectively than those whose competitive spirit has a tendency to drop back. Because if you move out of the way at that point in time, then that means you didn't get it right then, and you have to wait. And it's much better to, hey, I could have beat him out and I got it right now versus, later on down the future, even if that's what's for you, but you're gonna want it at least right then. So yeah, the competitive nature is definitely key to pushing you to be successful, even if it's against yourself.
I like that Sean added the competitiveness against himself or himself. I think that it does help to be competitive, but I don't think that's the top of the rung. I think there's a rung above the person that's competitive. I think the rung that is above competitiveness is the hungry or the person that's in need. Let's say that you have a race. You have 3 people in a race. You have one person that's just running for fun, one person running because they're competitive, and one person running for their life. Who do you think is going to win that race? Person number 3 probably don't even realize they're in a race. They're not looking at the competition. They're just trying to eat. They're trying to get to the end. So I think that's who normally wins. And it kind of branches me off to not just being competitive. Like, I think that being competitive does help you to be productive and to be successful. But I really do think that the person or people that are the most successful aren't doing it just for them, or they aren't doing it just because they're trying to beat the competition. They're doing it to fulfill a need or a desire that has to be quenched. Like, it's a thirst for it. And those are the people that end up at the very, very, very tip top. Like, you're not gonna outcompete a person to food against a hungry person. That person's gonna beat you there. If a person's providing for their family, they're gonna beat the competitive person. That is my thoughts on that.
Okay. I like it. I still think that you do have a fight though. I mean, according to the competition level of the person, because I feel you on the hungriness. Now, I can feel you on that, but I still think that you may be in for a battle though, because I think you're underestimating, say for example, competitiveness for competitiveness sake. You know what I'm saying? Like, some people, I'm not even interested until it becomes a race. Oh, it's a race. Oh shoot, I was just cruise controlling. Oh, it's a race. Oh, you really want it. Oh, I thrive off this. And now it's my everything. And just like it's everything for you, I think it becomes everything for that person because of the nature for them to want to win. You're saying that the other person's hungry because they need it. But once the competitive person sees this person is like, oh, you running with me for this? Are you really trying to get this with me? Yeah, let's do it. Now it's becoming everything to me because everything to me is winning, not necessarily about even the. I didn't want this bad till I see you wanted it. I got to have it now,
So
and so
let
you
me
got a
throw it
battle
back
now,
to you in sports terms.
huh?
Like, you watch basketball a lot.
I do.
You've seen a lot of competitive basketball players. When you think of Jordan, do you think it as competitive? Do you think he had a hunger for it?
I think Jordan had a love for the game. He had no, but I do also think he had a love for the game and a competitive. No, I do think he had a competitive nature. I do. I think that he was a competitor. He wanted to be. He wanted to win. He wanted to win, and that I mean, I get that there's a hunger to win, and then there's he wasn't just out there going, okay, I'm just gonna play against him, and this is just for fun from that standpoint. But he had such a desire to win that I feel like it was his competitiveness that put him over that.
Well, let me word it a different way. Is it more competitiveness to beat the opponents, or is it more a hunger to be the best?
Okay.
I think he had gambling debts to pay, but that's just me.
Well, he didn't get them until he was rich. He's already rich when he got the gambling debt. He had a ring by then.
Hey, competition is competition.
I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't, without Jordan coming on our show, we're not gonna know what his personal drives was. And you're invited.
True.
You're invited, by the way, Michael. Anytime. Get in touch and try.
So
We got you. But
let me ask you
You
this:
sure about that?
if you were in a fight for your life, would you rather fight a competitive person or a hungry person?
Truth be told, whichever one is easier. Whichever one I think I can beat, that's the one I'm gonna be. Because Sean said something that kind of made me remember how I used to be. I used to be very passive when it comes to things. Because I used to think to myself, "Oh man, this guy, he has a wife, he has kids, and I'm just a single guy. I'll be all right. I can go on ramen noodles and bologna." But then a point came and I realized, you know what? Forget that. He's the one that went and knocked that chick up. He's the one that decided to start a family at 24. I'm gonna eat more than just ramen and bologna. I'm gonna go for it. And if I have to go for the jugular in order to get it, then fine. And because I gotta take care of me, because nobody else is gonna take care of me. I've got to take care of me.
Sounds
so
like your hunger kicked in.
Well, exactly. I stopped. I got sick of being at a certain level. Like, no, I got to step this thing up. There's got to be more than what I'm getting right now. And at that point, old dude and his family didn't mean much. If someone's going to get the promotion, it's going to be me, and he's going to be the guy that I'm going to use a lot because, hey man, at least I'm giving you work. But when it comes to that raise, that promotion, I want that to be me. I want to be the guy in charge. One of my sergeants told me years ago, when he wanted me to do something and put me in charge of a bunch of people to do stuff, and I, being a young man who wanted to party and kick it all the time, I protested. And he was like, "Look, you can be in charge of them, or they can be in charge of you." And with that, I said, "All right, everybody on my team, come over here. This is what we're going to do." Right. Right. I decided to be in charge of them because I am not going to be in charge. I am not going to work for these idiots.
Okay, so I just had a thought. The difference. Being competitive means that your eyes are on your opponents. You're looking at your opposition. Whereas being focused or being hungry, your eye is on the target. Like, you might have opponents, you might not. And you're not even concerned if they're there, to be honest with you. You're just trying to get to the finish line, by any means necessary.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Terrence?
I'm still leaning towards if we're talking about hunger versus competitive, what was it? Hunger versus I'm trying to remember how it was worded, but I feel like the hunger is absolutely going to, I think, motivate a person more so than just sake of beating somebody. But I think internally, that's where it begins. Like Sean said a while back, I have to outdo what I did last time. I have to, I want to eat more than I ate last time. Last time I had ramen, this time I want meat. So I gotta go after it. I gotta go harder. I gotta go a little bit further, a little bit faster. And again, at the core, whether you call it hunger, desire, passion, whatever, that competitive nature to move is what gets the job done.
But to his point though, and to your point when y'all talking about hunger, like you said, to take it back to your sports reference and everything like that. We all have. We've looked at that, those basketball teams and games where it was like, it wasn't about being competitive, for competitiveness sakes. You know what I'm saying? The North Carolina Tar Heels were being competitive because they're that type of school, and because of their nature and tradition and things of that nature, and they're just a competitive, they're already in the race from that standpoint. You had, other teams that is like they're in the Final Four, the final, final 8 or the Sweet 16, and you expect them to be there. But then there were teams at first like Gonzaga and Baylor. When they first came on the scene, you had to give them credit because they were hungry. They were from small programs. You can't say it was just the program. You can't say it was just the competitive nature. You had to say, these boys, there's something else with them. It's beyond being competitive, because where is Gonzaga again? Gonzaga's a school. Is it? And they're in the 16, the 8 now, and now the 4. And they look like they might win. That most likely, by the time North Carolina gets beat, when they look back at it overall, yeah, that probably was, all the folks and the members of that particular team that went that far and went that deep was probably all like y'all say, hungry. Not necessarily just being competitive, but it was deeper than that. And so I will admit, to go back to your original question, Tony, do I want to fight the guy that's straight hungry, or the one that's just fighting in competition, like straight up for me? Yeah, I just want to fight the competitor. Hungry dude, I may not want to go against him if I could know ahead of time. But now my competition is going to drive me. 9 times out of 10, I ain't gonna roll over, like Rhino was saying, just because dude is hungry. You know what I'm saying? He's still gonna have to win. I ain't going to the mat just
you gonna have to work.
Yeah. I ain't going to the mat just based off of the fact that, well, you hungry and I guess I should give up.
Movie reference. Fighting competition, you just fighting a gladiator. You fighting somebody that's hungry, you fighting Maximus.
Exactly.
Or you go into one of those Huey Freeman situations where the little Chinese girl was lying about getting thrown into a prison camp, and you're like, what? You were okay, guess what? You just changed the game. You're not going to get my A game. You're going to get my A++ game.
Yes, sir.
Love that reference, though.
Yeah, I like that reference. Yeah, that's good there. All right.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, competition can be very, very brutal. Like, very, very brutal. Like, even as a manager, I had people come at me in certain ways. I had one guy, he was talking to my boss about me behind my back, saying general things like, sometimes it seems like Rhino's just not there. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you even talking about? I'm just not there. And then my boss comes to me and says, and I know what he's talking about. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Do you know the things that I have to do to hold this place together when you're not here? When you're gallivanting in New Zealand with your wife? and I got to keep this thing together. What are you talking about? You know, I had another guy. He goes to my boss's boss, and he's like, I don't feel like I can get a fair shake because both of my bosses are black. Are you serious right now? Are you serious right now? Really? So basically you're saying that we're racist and we're not going to let the white man get ahead, which since you put it in my head, I kind of have to take that Dave Chappelle skits position. You know, I wish I could go back and shoot all the slavers. But no, that wasn't even my perspective, and still isn't. You know, but these are the kind of cutthroat competition that you'll find out there, and you'll find even worse than that. We had a lady show up. She was uncooperative from the start, to the point that even my boss, instead of sending her to patrol like he was supposed to, he went and patrolled because he couldn't stand to be around her. Turns out she was trying to provoke him into doing something to her so that she could sue and get a large sum of money. So these are kinds of things that you face out there, you know, and it won't come at you straight on. It's like it come from the side, you know, come from the bottom up, right? You know, just who are these people? They're your competitors, and you gotta win.
Necessary.
That's right. You've got to win. Do you have to play dirty like them? Not necessarily. I guess it depends on where your moral compass lands you. But, you know, at the same time, you're going to let this guy eat or you're going to eat. Someone's going to eat. Someone's got to get that food. Someone's got to get that bread. Who's it going to be? You or him? You or her? I'd rather it be me.
I think Rhino touched on something real quick that I just wanted to kind of put a nice little bow on, a cherry on top. You know, we were talking about competitive nature, and that stuff is fine as long as you're not doing it with malice, because that's a completely different place. I know we talked about by any means necessary and whatnot, but when you start trying to come from a place of malice with regards to your competitive nature, that can be troubling and problematic. Because as he was talking, I remember the situation where I actually lost a job to my assistant manager because he was that cutthroat and like amped up about having my position. He literally like badmouthed me to my boss, our area manager, the GM during the one visit, because I had stepped out of the store for, I forgot what it was, but I was actually marketing to a partner organization to try and do a dual promotion type thing in the mall, and he used that opportunity. It's, oh yeah, he's always out and, you know, at other stores and doing other things and not here where his focus and primary priority should lie. And we should be the ones out there doing these things. Whatever he said, it worked, because 2 days later I was packing my bags. It was just like, wow. So yeah, it's okay to be competitive, but remove the malice, remove the ill content. At the end of the day, if you're competing, competition usually is meant to be a game, and games are supposed to be fun. So just keep that kind of in mind as well. Oh, so on that note, I guess I need to go ahead and wrap this whole thing up and say, if there's anything else that you want to contribute to the conversation with regards to competition, we welcome it. Bring it on. Let's have a competition to see who can come up with the best reasons as to why or why not being competitive is a good thing. Love to see it in the comments. Go back and forth with it. And as always, thank y'all for listening. Like, share, subscribe. God bless you. Good night. Deuces.
Bye, everybody. Have a good one.
Peace.